217-629-7970 on this President's Day. I want to hear from you. So I think that George Washington, of course, is right up there as the first president because of the precedent that he set. I think the worst president, just in my very brief understanding and very elementary understanding of presidents throughout history, I think the worst president, in my opinion, was Woodrow Wilson. And why Woodrow Wilson? Because he ushered in the Federal Reserve. A lot of people believe the Federal Reserve, when they were brought in 1913, brought about the Great Depression because of the way they manipulated currency and so on. So I think, at least for me, Woodrow Wilson's probably there on the bottom of the spectrum. But I want to hear from you. 217-629-7970. Again, 217-629-7970. Who is the best president and who is the worst president? Of course, here in Springfield, we've got Abraham Lincoln, who the 16th president of the United States. Very, very close to our hearts. He's not a native of Springfield. He was actually born, in Indiana, I think it was, but lived most of his adult life here in Springfield in the surrounding area with a failed attempt at being a general store manager in New Salem to becoming a lawyer in Springfield, and then his rise into politics here in Springfield as a state legislator. And then beyond, ultimately winning the presidency in a very tumultuous time, being the first major Republican to take the office, and also being open to the group of rivals that he had. He wanted to bring all kinds of different voices together. But Abe Lincoln being assassinated, of course, after a second election where he won a second term post-Civil War. He had to deal with the Civil War. But there's a lot of critics of Lincoln as well during that era, having, for instance, the suspended habeas corpus. So it's kind of a fascinating history, and I think a lot of people will probably put Lincoln at the top of their list. But what do you think on this President's Day? 217-629-7970. Who's the best president? Who's the worst president? Good morning. You're on WMAY.
Best is kind of a toss-up. Worst is Franklin Delano Roosevelt.
Really? You didn't like FDR? What about FDR don't you like?
He didn't do what he did in response to the Depression is viewed as saving us from it ever happening again. And in my opinion, it is designed to make damn sure that if it does, there is no way to recover.
So you're talking about the New Deal and
yes.
all of the subsidies and all the programs.
Social Security, yeah. He wanted to make sure that we didn't recover. The best one, I'm really inclined to say Jefferson.
Ah, okay. Yeah.
I have all of Adams' works, that 10-volume thing.
Yeah, sure.
And I have the letters between himself and Jefferson. But Adams, the reason it's not John Adams is because he made, and I can't think of what the term is, a criminal act to speak against the government.
Interesting. Yeah. So those early presidents, they were quite diverse in their understanding of the role of government in our lives. And I think they really helped craft some of the early understanding. Greatly appreciate that. Good insight. 217-629-7970 on this President's Day. I'm asking you, best and worst presidents. Good morning. You're on WMAY.
Well, I'm going with the best being one that was alive during my lifetime, actually.
All right.
So we know I'm older than dirt. Never mind. I'm going with Kennedy. And the reason for Kennedy is he had vision more than anything else. He had vision that this country could be more than what it was. And he had an idea of how he wanted to get there. And that was impressive. he also did very well during the Cuban Missile Crisis, in my opinion, with the exception of the Bay of Pigs, which we all know about. So,
well, but the Bay of Pigs was something that the CIA apparently was trying to do underneath his nose without his awareness. But when he was made aware, he's like, "Wait a second, no, what's going on here?"
Right, exactly. So he would be who I consider to be the best, just because of his vision and of wanting to move us forward as a country.
He also wanted to break up the CIA. He had questions about the Federal Reserve, and the list goes on. Some indicating that could have been why some powerful people may have been involved in his assassination. Who knows? I don't think we'll ever really know what happened there.
Right. I'm with you on that. And for my worst president, going with Jackson. Jackson, I think.
Andrew Jackson. All right.
Yeah. Just never liked what he did. He was a bully, and I just never liked Andrew Jackson. He was a great general, terrible president.
All right. Okay. Got you down. Interesting insight there. And of course, on this President's Day, we may talk more about your thoughts on who's the best and the worst presidents. Good morning. You're on WMAY real quick.
I like Theodore Roosevelt as the best president.
Teddy Roosevelt. He was a Republican and a true environmentalist when you think about it, right?
He's the one that kept the hotels and casinos off the Grand Canyon.
Thank God for that. Right on.
He did. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, he's one of those guys who, he loved conservation so much that he was out in the thick of it, celebrating every chance he got to see the vast, just absolute gorgeousness of this country.
Plus, and he was pro-labor and he was pro-capitalism, as long as it had some patriotism around it.
Yeah.
Not like just go out and make money for the sake of it.
Yeah. And no, I think he's a good choice, and one of those bombastic individuals who I think if he was around today, he would have been very active on Twitter.
Yeah, he didn't like Thomas Jefferson either, which was surprising. And
so who's the worst president in your eyes?
Hands down, Trump.
Not a big surprise. Not a big, right. Even though Trump is probably just as bombastic as Roosevelt was.
Well, he preaches hate, and I mean, Roosevelt wanted immigrants to become Americans, but he didn't hate them, and he didn't hate the Democrats, and he didn't hate.
Well, I don't think Trump hated immigrants. He hated illegal immigration. And Trump was able to work with people, but he was up against a pretty vile machine. And I don't think anybody can disagree with that.
And he lies.
Well, what politician doesn't lie?
No, that guy's he gets the Oscar for that.
Okay, gotcha. All right. Okay, so we may talk more about this a little bit later on here on the WMAY Morning News.